What's going on, world? Welcome to another edition of the Black Mental Health Podcast. I'm your host, Reg. Joined today with me is another very special guest. I met this brother off of his content that he was putting out, and I just had to send him a DM and see how I can help support, because he has a great brand. I'm gonna let him explain it because I don't want to mess anything up. So I'm gonna let you introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about what you do.
Well, what I stand for is a mission in life. And I was really thinking back, well, when did this mission come about? And I think I traced that back to 2015 when I started a personal training company working on the outside. And then I figured you have to work inside out. As time went in, I used to work outside in. Now I figured you have to work inside out. So to give you a quick overview of what I do, I was a former personal trainer, now called mental health fitness coach. And I'm also a personal development speaker, and I host a talk show to help empower the world to take a holistic approach to life. So that's basically my rhetoric. And I'm in the process of achieving that. I don't think that I've became the true embodiment of my mission. So that mission every day is keeping me aligned to becoming whole, taking a holistic approach to my life and not just looking at the outside, but working inside. So every day I hope to do that through the videos, through the content, through speaking or writing or whatever I can do to make that vision become a reality.
Oh man, that's beautiful. I want to make sure I don't keep you too long because this brother is busy. He has a lot of things that he's doing. So, when you talk about a holistic approach, explain that to, like, if you were explaining it to a child, like, what does that mean? What does that look like for an individual?
Well, when you think about the holistic word, it means to be whole, to be together, to have all things working for you and not against you.
Mhm.
So having your mindset solidified, having your body in tune, having your spirit and your soul aligned. So that entails, what are you putting into your body? What are you feeding into your mind? And what are you feeding into your soul? You know, a lot of us, we wake up in the morning, we take a shower, we check our armpits and see if it stinks. We check our breath and take and brush our teeth. But the question is, do you wake up? Do you take a mental shower? Are you setting time for yourself in the morning? And the question also is, are you taking a spiritual shower? Are you connecting with the creator? Are you meditating? What are you doing to have that spiritual connection? That's what a holistic approach entails.
And then you said a term that I love just now, mental. I think it was mental health fitness. Like,
Mental health fitness.
what does that look like? How does that work? I know it's probably similar to what you just said, but I know it's some, even with anything with fitness, requires some strength, some hard work. So what does that look like when it tells mental health fitness?
Well, as we all know, the mind is a muscle. The will is a muscle. Now, not in the physical, not in the realms of, oh, it's actual muscle, but what I mean is, if you give it enough practice, if you train it enough, you can redirect it and you can strengthen that capacity. So I used to always train my clients physically. I'm like, okay, this is what you have to do. Let's do these planks, get down, we got to get your core solidified before we can start adding these more dynamic movements. What I realized is their mindset wasn't yet fit, so their body couldn't follow. So mental health fitness has multiple components. Not only is fitness itself a part of mental health fitness, but it's the exercises that you're doing for your mind. So I have these things, the three S's, the six S's that I focused on. Um, and the thing is, are you intentionally growing? How do you exercise the mental capacity? One way I do that is through self affirmations or words that I say to myself to look at things differently. For instance, if I'm running somewhere and I'm late, learning how to slow down and talking to myself. So, mental health fitness is raising your awareness and strengthening the capacity of your mind.
Wow, man. I hope everybody picked up on them gems because that was a lot just now. What made you decide that mental health was the route? Why didn't you go, or the way that you're taking, I should say, why didn't you go, like, get your therapy degree or the counseling degree, or go get those credentials like most of the people that they say have the knowledge and expertise to talk about it? Why you choose this route?
Well, initially, here's what happened to me. I was the entrepreneur since high school. I was in business plan competitions. I wanted to be, and I am going to be one of the greatest entrepreneurs who are actually
I like
solving real life problems.
I like that talk.
And you see, that's mental health fitness right there.
Hmm.
So in doing so, I was just go get it, go get it, go get it. And I wanted to listen to all of these motivational speakers telling me to grind. I'm listening to Gary Vee telling me to like work hard. And what I realized was throughout the whole process, the most important component to my success and my fulfillment and happiness was my mind, and it wasn't quite there. I was going through a lot of anxiety. I was sleeping in my car for an entire year. I didn't realize that I was depressed in that state. I didn't realize that as I was training my clients, that I was mentally not there. And that was that clog, that mental fog was actually hurting my business and hurting, everything around me, my entire situation. So then I stepped back from all of that exterior to really focus in. That's when I started the process of meditation. That's when I started all of these different things. So that's really where all of that came from.
Um, Take us back to that time period when you was feeling anxiety and you was having those type of feelings. How did you manage to pull yourself out of there? Because I always tell people you have two type of people that deal within the mental health field. You have the people that's the therapists, the counselors who went to school and had the training and got the expertise in that way. But you got players on the field, just like a football player that's commentating and they turn it. You got the Stephen A. Smiths, and then you got the Michael Strahans who actually played on the field and actually was in there. So what about your darkness and the stuff that you've been through made, like, how was you feeling during that time, and then how were you able to get out of it?
Well, the thing is, when you're in the situation, there's a big chance you have no idea what's happening with you. You just know that there is a result you're trying to get and you're not getting it. And you're just confused, frustrated, and just like, oh my goodness, I cannot do this. Keep in mind, I'm going through extreme things I've never experienced before. I'm 19, 20 years old. I'm getting evicted out of my apartment. I'm getting creditors calling me every single day. I'm ending up sleeping in my car. I'm running a business. It's some months it's phenomenal. Other months I'm just like, what's happening? So I'm worrying. Worry was my biggest problem. I was sitting at home. I remember coming home every day, looking for clients, training people at the parks, at the beaches. I'm dragging the cart, putting it in my car, coming home, and then looking at my front door, seeing the eviction notice. You have like every time I see it, I was getting panic attacks. I didn't realize it. I was getting panic attacks. I was just like panicking and worrying. Worry forces you to not act. Really, it diminishes your power to act because you're so worried about the future. So instead of doing something about it at that time, that was even before I was really into motivational speaking or like inspiring others. Every time I even look at the bill, I was worried. I even remember driving down the street, being worried that if I get stopped by a cop, something bad will happen. And that really took over my life, but I was still grinding, waking up every day. My routine aligned with the successful. The lessons I was learning, the principles aligned, but the mind was not aligned with any of those things. So there was a discordance in my head while I was trying to will my way through. So how did I get over it? Am I over it? No. I've learned how to manage and diminish those stressors. So I've started meditating. That was one of the things that really changed my life was in like about a year and a half ago when I started doing medical qigong, literally it changed my life. That was one instance where I really started to really dig deep. And as I acquired knowledge, it was like stepping on books so that I can see past my situation. And I started to understand exactly what was going on with me. And now out of that, I am now creating a new blueprint that I've learned, oh, what has worked and what has not worked. And one thing that has always worked for me, even when I didn't know it, was a vision and a dream for the future. That always pulled me through every single situation. because no matter what happened, I picked myself back up. God picked me back up, and I said, we got to get this dream, make it a vision, make it a reality. So that was one of the major things at the time. Now I have different other modalities to help me because I know what what I'm going through, when I'm stressed, what's happening.
You know the triggers, you know what to look for when the signs start to present themselves, and you know the
Exactly.
solutions to do, what to do in them times.
Exactly. I know that just the best thing you could do is take a deep breath. I do that. It's easy, and all you have to do is take a deep diaphragm breath, and it helps.
I try to get more, or I'm trying to. Let me not say I'm trying. I am getting more entrepreneurs on my podcast because I as much of an entrepreneur I am myself, I don't think we talk about enough the mental up and downs of entrepreneurship. And you said like you had some months in business where you were like, all right, I got it, I'm going, this is great, like everything is good. And then you have the other months where it's like, I don't know if this is gonna work out, like what am I about to do? Like, should I call it quits? Talk about that mental imbalance that entrepreneurs face and how it affects you, and what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs when it comes to it?
This portion of the podcast is brought to you by Spread the Good Communications. Spread the Good Communications offers copywriting, editing, planning, and consulting services to help businesses and nonprofits share who they are, what they do, and why it's valuable. The mission of Spread the Good is helping people who serve the well being of communities, families, and individuals to engage their audience and build relationships. You may have the right solutions to offer your audience, but your success is limited without effective messages and stories about your work. Shelley Williams is the creator of Spread the Good Communications. She loves using the power of words to make a positive impact in people's lives. Here's a testimonial from Sharika on her website. Shelley has been a great asset to my company and played a vital role in implementing effective communication strategies for my target audience. She is able to quickly understand and complete work that delivers a clear and detailed message. If you're ready to get better results with engaging your ideal audience, visit spreadthegoodcoms.com/services and reach out to Shelly and tell her Reg sent you. I can 100% vouch for her. She's been nothing but great for me and the work that we've done. If you guys like my book, Suffering Success, A Paradigm Shift for Struggle to Achieve Happiness, you'll definitely know that she was the person who edited my book. And if you guys like the way the flow of my book went, you can get a living proof of example of her work. So go check out Spread the Good Communications and tell Shelly Rad sent you. And go get a copy of Suffering Kids Success while you out. This portion of the podcast is brought to you by My Violin Weighs a Ton. My Violin Weighs a Ton is the realization of a unique vision that hip-hop artist and mental health advocate Archie Green crafted and is bringing to life in order to engage, educate, and inspire a new generation. Archie also understands the power of music and how it can be used to overcome obstacles, deal with painful experiences, and even help individuals cope with mental illness. The students participating in this project are a part of the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, which according to a 2017 CDC study are leading the nation in suicide rates. Wow. 2 in every 10 high schoolers having attempted suicide in 2015. That is big. Wow. In January 2019, Archie and his mental health advocacy group, Peel Them Layers Back, was granted the opportunity to bring My Violin Weighs a Ton to life. For the 4-month-long performance project, Archie and Peel Them Layers Back have partnered with Lexington Bell Community Center, which is an urban youth educational center located in the historic Cleveland neighborhood of Ho. I hope I pronounced that right. To support, head over to the GoFundMe.com/MVWAT2019. The link will be in the description of this podcast, and make sure to let them know you heard them first on the Black Mental Health Podcast.
Wow, that is something right now that we really, really need to focus on. because we're in a go-getter mentality. We're just like, let's go and get it, go and get it, go and get it. And what's happening is we're going not only the trouts and the peaks of our actual craft, of our entrepreneurship ventures, but within our own energy levels. So you go in for like 3 months. You are very consistent for those 3 months. You are probably getting about 4 to 6 hours of sleep. If it was me, I'm waking up at 4 a.m., going up at 10 p.m., working all day, 16-hour shifts. I mean, I'm obsessed with just working. Just the fact that my schedule is clear. Just know this, okay? The schedule, just because your schedule is jam-packed, doesn't mean you're accomplishing. Now, don't confuse um confuse doing with progress. Just because you're doing things doesn't mean you're necessarily progressing. So I was doing all of these things just to keep my schedule packed, just so I could have the bragging rights of being an entrepreneur subconsciously. Now these things are not in the conscious mind, they're subconscious things. So I realized that we develop these scripts that we take over time. People say, you got to work hard, you got to work 24 hours. So we have a script that if I'm an entrepreneur and I don't work 16 hours a day, I'm not a prominent entrepreneur. But guess what? If you took 4 hours out of those days for yourself, you could have had 8 hours more effective than the 16. So what we need to begin to focus on is, number one, are you actually making holistic progress? Now, not just with your business, but with your mind, with your feeling of well-being. If you're not conscious enough to analyze to see, oh, when I wake up, I'm like super fatigued. When I'm going to sleep, I'm like mentally, when I'm going through the day, I'm like, there's a fog. It seems like my brain is not where it's supposed to be. Then you should know at that point, then there is something you have to switch within your routine to match, to get that level of just being, still and sharp. So the thing is, if you work on yourself more than you work on your business will most likely progress more, because you'll be able to create a lot more. And you kind of find your passion. You'll find a new sense of direction and a new sense of purpose. So that's kind of like one of the major things that I want to say to entrepreneurs. You don't have to adhere to what the books have told you. You have to figure out what works best for you, and looking at all components and not just one aspect of your life.
He been gem dropping since he started talking. So y'all, I hope y'all hear all them gems. Talk about and I'm gonna transition here to something a little bit different. Something I know me and you can relate to. Um, I come from a Caribbean background. My mother is from Antigua and Barbuda, um, which I haven't been back, and I need to go back. I haven't been there in like 3 years. And I seen that you're from Haiti,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
First generation American, or you were born there?
Well, I was born in Haiti, came here when I was about 9 years old.
Okay. Talk about the conversation around mental health in the Caribbean culture and how it's affected you, because I'm from what I'm hearing is you transition a mindset, because that's not the same mindset that most Caribbean cultures have when it comes to mental health. It's not really talked about. So talk about your experience with that.
Well, it was non-existent. Mental health was non-existent. There's no such thing. Nobody told me, oh, you have to take care of your mind. It was non-existent. In fact, real conversation, to converse, to share the contents of your soul with somebody else was also diminished, almost very non-existent. Parents go to work, I come home, I feed you, you are blessed that has happened. That is what happens. So at the end of the day, I was left with management of self. I became independent forcibly. Not just like, oh, independent, I can take care of my bills. Not necessarily, but independent in the form that I can take control of the direction of my life. So when I moved here, it was like, first of all, you're going to school, they calling you a Zoe, and you're like, at that time, you think, oh my goodness, am I really worthy here? Like, I don't fit in. I didn't realize that even as a kid, I had detachment. I used to call myself Mr. Lonely, like,
Wow.
because that's what I used to call myself, because I used to be a kid who didn't really talk to people like that. I was just like, I was really quiet. So I feel like now I figured out that I had a detachment from my mom, because when I moved up here, my mom was actually still in Haiti and I lived with my stepmom. So I had a disassociation kind of like with my family, and I felt alone in the world. And where I put my energy to feel needed, to feel important, to have that sense of significance and empowerment was in sports.
Mm.
So, and in academics. So mental health was not something we talked about. Even now, let's go forward towards now. Even now, like I would tell you, a couple of months ago, I went through a stage. This is why I actually switched to mental health fitness, was because I found out what's really was holding me back, or what's capping me at a certain potential where I know my potential is way higher. And I discovered that I was trying to become somebody, getting frustrated that I'm not that somebody, ignoring the fact that I am that somebody, that I am somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And in fact, it's not that recognizing that I am that somebody, but recognizing that I am somebody. I am somebody. I'm someone. I am a soul in the universe. My presence matter just because I am. Not even because of what I'm trying to achieve, not even because of this or that. So when I went to a stage where I felt completely away from who I was, now I don't want to confuse you, from who I am, right? That's the word. When I felt completely detached from who I am, not living in that purpose, I went through a stage of depression. I, I didn't understand what was going on with me. And because I'm so used to get it, when I was not doing anything, I was in completely discomfort. I couldn't understand it. And every day I got more frustrated that I wasn't doing anything. I'm like, I am the motivator. I teach people to go and go hard. Why am I going to? You think you're exempt just because you built the faculties of your mind to understand things? You find out you're not exempt,
Mm-hmm.
because your body has its own brain. I mean, your body has its own programming. For instance, the amygdala automatically stores information that is not in the conscious mind. So you may just be in a certain circumstance. For me, it was going back home, right? And when I went back there, I was like, this is not fitting my story. So right there was a discordance with my dream. I associated my dream and being independent, being on my own, being in this city. When I was home, it was not happening. So guess the response I got from my Caribbean parents was that you are lazy, you are like, so it was consistent negativity when I was going through my own mental battle. So there is
Mm-hmm.
a lack of understanding in our community, and your podcast is the start to debunking that and actually changing that, because I needed someone at the time, and instead of getting someone, I actually got more fuel to the fire. And it was through the grace of God and through mental will and working out the faculties of my mind that has allowed me to circumpass that situation and not become an advocate. Like just wanted to be a motivational speaker, help people see themselves greater, but not realize what I needed and what people need is talking about self-management and self-care, self-love, meditation, fitness, health, wellness, exercise. All of those things come together is great for your mental health.
What are some of the struggles that you find within your business with your clients? What are the same? Because a lot of us preach the fact that we're not alone and there are people out there to help you, but there are some commonalities in the struggles that we share. And through your clients, what have you noticed have been like the same type of struggle that you hear, mental struggle that you hear over and over?
Well, one of the things that I say is some of the biggest struggles is assumptions and associations. we often assume to know what things mean. And in assuming that we know what these things mean, it runs up our minds so that it runs up our mind. Our minds is speeding up, and we can't slow it down. For instance, I had a client who, for instance, let's say you go through a breakup. This is a major thing. It's almost like a grief period. You get a lot of, you might even end up going through a deep depression. But you start making a lot of assumptions. Well, he left because I did this. He left because I did that. This happened because of that. Or even worry is formulated upon assumptions. I don't know if I'm going to succeed. I don't know what's going to happen. I feel like I just graduated. I'm assuming. Oh, if I do this, then this will happen. This is the if and then statements, associations. So there's all this associations between people, things, and circumstances, and there's always a lot of assumptions of what's going to happen, what has happened, and how other people perceive as me. And there isn't a lot of residence in your own being and understanding that if you step outside yourself and look into yourself, you can see that that mental dialogue that you're actually having is fooling you, and it's just a way of your mind to continuously run with these associations and assumptions about all these different things.
Wow, man. That's big. That is big. And I think that's real key because we do think we assume that we know what's going to happen or that we know what is happening, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just supposed to be assumed nothing. I forgot what book I heard that in, but it really is you don't know what you don't know. So you really have to sit with trying to understand and make sense of everything, and don't assume that you already know what it is.
Exactly.
Um, I got two more questions and then we're gonna wrap it up. The next one is, and it's similar towards the one with the clients. When I first started this podcast, I wanted it to be a men's podcast, so I was gonna call it the Black Mental Health Podcast. But it was hard to get men to open up and talk um, about stuff that was going on in the inside. So again, I appreciate you for coming on, and I thank you for sharing your being vulnerable enough and trusting me enough to share your story. What reasonings or from your experience as a man or working with men, what advice would you give the men? Why do they not share? Like what's your overall experience with men and mental health?
This portion of the podcast is brought to you by Mental Clarity Coaching. Mental Clarity Coaching is a life strategizing service that prioritizes personal, professional, and product development. Not only is the concentration on single mothers, underdeveloped men, misguided youth, or lost entrepreneurs, but the person behind these titles. The main objective is to help the individual so that they can flourish in their gifts and capitalize on every opportunity that's available to them. I hate talking about stuff that has to do with me, so I got a review for someone who actually went through the coaching program and is an entrepreneur. And they said, I found Reg when I was nearly at the end of my rope and on the verge of giving up on it all. I'm glad to have rediscovered my inner strength and developed a supportive community through Reggie's support, transparency, and commitment to helping real people push through. Through his program, I found a coach, a friend, and my best self. For more information about mental clarity coaching, go to my website, reginaldahoward.com/coaching, and let's work together to get you the clarity you've been looking for.
This portion of the podcast is brought to you by the Worthy Lifestyle app. Are you looking for mental health support, education, and resources? Are you lacking self-esteem to elevate? Are you looking for a way to handle the childhood trauma you're not talking about? Are you sad, angry, or just all over the place emotionally? If so, download the Worthy Lifestyle app. The Worthy Lifestyle app provides mental health education, resources, and support. Learn how to become the best version of yourself. Before you can win, you have to believe you're worthy. Download the Worthy Lifestyle app and tell them Brad sent you. I had a chance to meet the creator and the owner and the operator, and she's an amazing person. We actually are in the talks of doing big things together, especially for the mental health community. So I'm in so full support of what she's doing with this app, and I highly recommend it because it's an amazing tool for people that say therapy and all of these things are expensive and they don't know where to start. So the Worthy Lifestyle app is definitely a place to give you that start, and it might be the place that you call home for a while. So go download the app and tell them Brad sent you.
Well, the thing is, we want to be dominant.
Mm.
To remain a dominant being in the eyes of other, there has to be no form of vulnerability. But And not having a sense of vulnerability diminishes your internal dominance. If you have to be dominant against your outside, then you're just trying to build walls. Oh, let me build all these walls, or let me build this image. You're working so hard to act differently than what your inside is, that you can't even step out the time to work on your inside. And guess how you get rid of the things that are inside you, that is clogging you up, that is hurting you, that is putting a weight on yourself, on your heart, and on your being. You let them out. So vulnerability is letting out the things that's tightening up your intestines or tightening up your lungs when grief and sorrow. And so we're reluctant because we want to have dominance. We're males. We want to have power. And one of the 48 laws of power is the vulnerability, no vulnerability. Yeah. I have to have a certain image. But here's the thing. When we begin to open up, when we begin to let things go, we can hear ourselves. That's what I'm telling you. If you can just hear what you're saying, you can find a solution. Somebody asked, that's where you go to the therapist when they ask you these questions. If you were mindful, when they ask you these questions, you'd figure out the own solution. You'd be like, oh, that's why I'm thinking that way. So when we're not vulnerable, we're bottling up. But when we're vulnerable, we're letting it out. And that somebody can allow us to see what we couldn't see. Because guess what? You don't know what you don't know. And until you are willing to share, nobody can tell you what you don't know. So if nobody can tell you what you don't know, then you just reside in the state of not knowing. So what do you want for your life? Do you want to know what's going on with you? Are you going to search through the books, through the literature, like I do, study 2 or 3 hours every day? I'm studying the brain now, the amygdala, I'm studying the frontal lobe. I'm studying all of these different components of, oh, I always knew that this is not really me. And also, if to really help, if you're a Black male and you have a lack of sense of vulnerability, this concept will change your life. This body, I am somebody. Somebody is just a vessel that holds the soul. Once you separate yourself, your deeper self, your higher self, from your animal nature, from your body, you can start to see, oh, this person right here that's kind of vulnerable, that the ego is vulnerable. Oh, but this person is much higher. How can I be more of this person and let this person diminish? The less the ego starts to go down and you start to worry less about how you look in the eyes of others, and the more your soul, you start to work on that soul work your soul, the more you'll be vulnerable, because you start to realize that this is just a body and my status here in the world is just, what does that really matter? When you start to operate out of unconditional love, of compassion, gratitude, those are spiritual awakening things that you go through those process. And a lot of people haven't gone through that process. Even if you're in church, some people have not awakened and they're still in church. So it's about really working yourself to be able to get to that point, because I was at the same stage. I was homeless for an entire year and I couldn't tell nobody. I showed up, trained people, and they're paying me really nice money. I'm training them. I had a script in my head that this was so inspiring for me. I'm like, and I went through some trouble. So I guess I made some associations with having a place. I couldn't tell anybody. And I would have gotten help at the time, but I didn't want to be vulnerable. But when I started to open up and be a little bit vulnerable, people related. People was like, I have the sense of courage to do that. And as I started to do that, I started to realize this one thing, and I'll leave it like that. My friend asked me about, I said, a book, I'm writing a book. It's going to be an autobiography, kind of understanding how I grew through the pain. Grow Through the Pain is the title. And she said, are you afraid of putting yourself out there? I was like, the small I, the ego is, I'm very afraid. I do not want people to know. But the higher self says that this is bigger than me, more impactful. This is why the situation occurred. It was for you to empower others. So I would diminish the little I inside of me to let the big I come to surface and have a bigger impact. So that's really impact. Inspiration comes from being vulnerable.
Man, that's a drop the mic moment right there, and you walk off the stage. My last question, which is not even a question, you can answer it or take it any way that you want. What is your overall viewpoint, uh, experience, ideas, whatever opinion about mental health within the Black community?
Hmm. Mental health within the Black community is not just about mental health. It's about the health of your life, the health of your spirit, the health of your being, the health of your relationships, the health of your mindset, the health of how you perceive the world, the health of the stories you tell yourself, the health of the negative consciousness that has been passed down to us from years after years. It's the health of your entire being. Mental health is not simply mental health, it's your full health. Guess what? When you think about mind, everything that we do is from the mind. So as there was one revolution. Martin Luther King came to free us from the slavery and from actual segregation within the infrastructure of political barriers. That was the awakening before. That was the freedom. That was the movement. This was what they called, um, this was the movement that was going on back then. Now
Civil
there is a different civil rights movement. I don't know how that's extent.
rights.
That was a civil rights movement. Now we have the human soul movement. We have the consciousness movement. This is the era where we've been freed from the physical chains. We've been freed from the chains of the infrastructure, and some of them still resides, but it's the time for us to free our mental capacity. It is a time to free ourselves from ill habits of the past. It is a time for us to free ourselves from the things that we used to be accustomed to during the times of slavery. You know what I mean? The foods that we used to eat during the times of slavery. It is a time to detach from those, from the mind. So we have to begin to tap into our internal selves and start to get out of these rhetorics, get out of these conceptions that was passed down by our family. We have to get woke for real. This is the stage of Black mental health. This is not simply about the mind, but it's all about if we could make this mental movement, and we are, because Reginald Edward here is empowering this movement. A lot of us are doing this. There is a consciousness raising. If we could get in line with this movement, then we will solve the political, the social, the financial, the emotional, and all the mental health issues or health mental health obstacles, which is an opportunity to grow and change and redirect your mind's attention.
He bowled that up so nicely, guys, and you guys, this is just 30 to 45 minutes worth of content. He has a slew of the same type of inspiration on his channel, which you guys, I'll link it up in the description. You guys can follow him, support him, and please support everything that he's doing, because like he said, we're trying to support a new type of movement where you prioritize the mental, which is actually your full health, as opposed to just everything else we're trying to prioritize. Everything starts from up here, from the mind.
Exactly.
And so once you've empowered that, then the financial, the physical, the spiritual, everything else starts to fix itself once you start delving into the mind. So
Exactly.
support him, follow him, and remember, guys, that this platform has never been about a replacement to therapy. It's an alternative, and it's a place where people share therapeutic stories. Thank you for listening.